Good evening, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Dropping the Gloves. We got Cal Clutterbuck here. Former teammate of mine. We were just shooting the breeze before we came on, and I was giving him, a little bit of a hard time because, just Spittin' Chicklets is the juggernaut. I think we all know that. And I try to one-up him every once in a while. I'm like, I'm going to get Cal. Just retired, all-time hits leader. Then all of a sudden I check on the YouTube, and you flippin' did it last week. And I'm like, what the hell that's about? And you did the interview, 4 months ago? How does that happen?
Yeah, I did it a while ago. I recorded it a while ago, like end of May,
Stupid.
early June, during the Cup final, and they just put it out now. So I was actually wondering when it would come out because I did it, and my friends were like, "Oh, you did Chicklets! I can't wait till it comes out." And we waited for a couple months, but there's such a juggernaut that recently retired hits leaders aren't on the top of the radar.
Well, Cal, my lead time is 1 day, so you'll be happy to know that this will be released tomorrow. Because you're a big deal for Dropping the Gloves, so I appreciate you joining us on the show. I was just thinking because our careers overlapped pretty close. You obviously had a longer runway than I did. I retired a little bit earlier than you, but I was there when you came into Houston. I was there when you turned pro, this young bowling ball of a kid, and I remember camp. I remember the Minnesota Wild camp when you came in. And I remember everybody's reaction to you was like, holy shit. Like, who is this kid? Because there was no fear. And the thing I have to commend you is you stayed that same player for 20 years, 17 years, right? Like that, which is hard to do. And going back to that camp, I protected you for, I would say, a good 5 years. But coming in, you're this 19, 18-year-old kid, and obviously you knew the game. You knew how to hit. But holy hell, like, what? Did you realize the impact you were going to have, or how? Because you're a third-round guy. Like, it's not like you're this high-end draft pick, and you knew what you had to do to get, eyes watching you. But did you see, like, now that you have a 17 career under your belt, how crazy your career was going to be as soon as you stepped on that ice at the Excel Center? Because it happened so fast for you.
Yeah, it happened fast. I never thought I was going to have a career. I really came in there thinking, whatever. In my first camp, like, I was going out with a lot of the older guys who had been to 4 camps and going out most nights and having a good time and like just showing up and expecting to get sent to junior. And then rounds of cuts were happening, and I didn't go home. It started for me, like it started in Traverse City, Michigan that year. Like for underage guys, you go to rookie camp.
Yep.
I did my thing there, and like to preface the whole thing, like in junior, I was a rambunctious sort of like run around guy, but I also had a lot of offensive sort of output in the last couple of years of junior. But I just thought, like, honestly thought that I was going to a couple camps and that I would go play my overage year in junior, and then I would go play Canadian University hockey, and that would be the end of me. And I'd get a engineering degree, and I'd go and live my life. That's what I thought. So I really had nothing to lose. So I kind of went in there just like half hungover and full of no fear. Didn't come from the fact that I didn't have any fear. I had a lot of fear, but the fear was like I had already, when a lot of people, like, you see a lot, I'm a big World War II guy, and like you see a lot of these documentaries, it's just like you go into World War II and it's just like you're dead already. So like just act like you're dead already, and then the fear will go away. I was dead already. So when I went into camp, I was already dead, and that sort of mindset sort of worked for me, and luckily for me, I had guys like you and Boogeyman and guys around to clean up my mess. And I didn't even realize how rambunctious I was until I really like got older and got into it, and then looked back and realized, like, holy shit, like I was a little bit of a pain in the ass. But for me, it was just about 1 foot in front of the other, 1 day at a time, and I just ended up sticking around. Like, I think I was the last cut my first training camp there. I got sent back to junior. I got sent back. I missed like 5 games in my junior season because I was there for so long. And me being as stupid as I was and young, I just didn't realize what that meant. I didn't think of it like, oh, I'm on the radar now. I had the reverse sort of mindset that a lot of kids have going into camps. I had no chance of making the team, so what the hell? I might as well go out there and do it.
It's funny the word that sticks out is rambunctious. You say it like you're such a child. Like, oh, we were just playing a little game. You were decleating guys. Like, you were literally burying guys and just taking people's souls in camp. But you're just like, oh, let's just a rambunctious little guy running around the ice. Like, you were actively killing guys. Were you surprised how easy it was in the NHL to kill people? Because I'm going through your clips today. I'm like, holy cow! Like, Cal was like doing some work early on. Did it surprise you? Because it's one thing when you're playing in the Oshawa, you're playing against kids, 16, 17-year-old kids, easier targets. Then you get to the show and you're burying Brad Richards. Like, you're dummying guys all over the ice. I remember in the AHL, it was just like night after night after night of just Cal just murdering people. Clean. Don't get me wrong, clean. Did that surprise you how crazy easy it was?
I think what surprised me was maybe along those lines. What surprised me was that I was it was like, am I this good at it? And then I hit one person one time who was somebody, I forget who it was, but it was like, yeah, no, I am pretty good at this. And so like I had everything, I have and had everything going for me for as far as hitting goes. I have a very low center of gravity. Yeah. I have a very wide base. I'm a heavy guy to begin with. Not a lot of people can skate as fast as I could skate at over 200 pounds and under 5'10". I have all those things going. And so my center of gravity and my timing allowed me to it didn't matter who it was. I would almost make a game of going after the biggest guy to as you so eloquently put it, decleat them, because why not? If the biggest guy is going to go down that hard, then the rest of the bench is going to be going, Jesus, this guy, he's not I wasn't picking on small guys. Mind you, I hit small guys all the time, but it was like a game for me. It was like my own little game. Let's find the biggest guy and let's see if I can kill him. And to that point, it took me 7 years to knock Douglas Murray down. He was my biggest challenge ever.
Oh, okay.
Because Douglas Murray was exactly me, but he was 6'3", and he had 40 pounds on me, and I tried forever, and I got traded to the Islanders in year 7 and knocked him over at the Coliseum to a big roar. And I'll never forget it. I went back to the bench. You can ask any one of my Islander teammates. I was cheering like I just won the Super Bowl, and I was like, I did it, boys. I did it. I played this guy 5 times a year for 7 years, and I've bounced off him every time, and I finally knocked him over. And I met Douglas along the way, and he's a great dude and one of the biggest animals you'll ever meet in your life. But knocking him over, and then the next one was Zdeno Chara, and then I knocked Zdeno Chara over at the end of a period one time. The whistle might have gone, he might not have been paying attention, but I knocked him over, and then he suckered me and concussed me, and then
worth it.
But I went back to the dressing room for the intermission, and I was like, I got 15 minutes, stuck my head in the cold tub. I was like, I'm good to go. I knocked Big Z over. I can do anything.
Oh, my gosh. That's so funny. It's funny when you say that you were such a low-gravity guy. The one guy I could not knock over was Bufflin. I tried my ass off for years to get that guy, and I couldn't even budge him. It's just funny how people are built to absorb hits. Could you take a hit, too? Because you're just I don't remember you getting buried at all. You were always inflicting.
Well, I had a pretty good radar for people wanting to kind of kill me.
Which was all the time for you. People hated you.
All the time. So that's one of the biggest detriments to me, is that if you go back and combine the two questions, in junior, I had a pretty good run offensively my last couple of years of junior. And when I made it to the AHL, NHL, and you were there alongside me, you knew what it was like for me. It was everybody, every shift, the entire bench, everybody wanted to get me. Everybody, all the time. So when you play the game that way, you're forced to play the game with one eye here and one eye on the puck. So everything that you do is okay, no matter where you are on the ice, I couldn't just take for granted that I was going to get a puck in the middle and have room. So everything I did was I had to look here, I had to look here, I had to take an outside route. I couldn't and not until my last probably 5 years in the league did I really was I really able to just play the game the way I played it when I was playing minor hockey. Because in minor hockey, who really is gonna, even if someone ran into me,
you're fine.
I'm fine. It's not a big deal. And so it was a detriment to my sort of the flow of my game. But at the same time, but at the same time, I had to be aware, and I was going to make my money doing what I did, and throughout my career, I definitely added a knowledge of the game, like a sort of like special teams defensive, like very systematic, reliable part of my game that allowed me to be effective aside from just kind of, running around and doing that. But that really hampered my ability to go out there and try and play on other lines, because I felt like somebody was always hunting me, especially in the first 10 years.
Yeah, did you ever get that urge? Because I witnessed it firsthand. You have a cannon for a shot, like an absolute laser.
I have decent ability offensively, but for me in Minnesota, I think there was 2 years where the team either had a lot of injuries, or I was kind of like moved up the lineup. I was playing in the top 9, top 6, bouncing around. I was on the power play for a year or two. I almost scored 20 goals. Like, that was the pinnacle of okay, I'm marrying the physical play with the offense. And then the Wild signed Zach and Ryan, and then I kind of got pushed back down to that sort of role. The problem with that was I'm fine with it. It's not a big deal. It's just that when you push someone down to a fourth line, and you don't have a set plan for that fourth line, like if that fourth line is not going to be valuable to you in some way, whether it's killing penalties or 6-on-5 or whatever, then those guys are going to have a really hard time playing up to their quote-unquote abilities. Yeah. And so, Kyle Brodziak and I, and even I think Danny Heatley got pushed down to that line with us. So we would go out there for 8 minutes a night and we were spot fillers. You know what that's like. It's just 100%. I can't go out there and do what I'm supposed to do if I have no flow in the game and I'm just being thrown out there just because the other guys are tired. So that was my issue in my last year in Minnesota. I had the worst year of my career, and so that kind of stymied my growth as an offensive player. And then I came to the Islanders, and we had a really bad year and a bad team, and it was just difficult. And I think I scored 15 goals or so, but then the following year is when I got put with Casey and Marty, and sort of was the moment where it was like, okay, for me, I looked at that I think a lot of guys would look at that as a sort of demotion. I actually felt like this is a good fit for me because I can bring a little bit of, because Casey was a pretty good all-around player and Marty was a way better player than people ever gave him credit for. Yeah. And I was like, this line actually could be a very serviceable sort of line. Like, give me the Sidney Crosbys of the world. Like, we won't get scored on. We'll each score 10 to 15 a year. We'll have our 30 points, but it'll free up your other lines to go out there and do their thing offensively against players who, offensive players want to play against offensive players because they're each going to take their chances. The last thing an offensive line wants to do is play against a very solid defensive line that plays the body and is very physical. They don't want that. They want to play against other kind of middle line players because then they can take their chances and it doesn't end up burning them. So I saw an opportunity there to be an effective line, and we leaned into that hard, and I played with Casey for 10 straight years.
It was crazy effective, too.
Yeah, and Marty took 2 years off and went to Toronto, and then came back.
Yeah.
He came back because we just had something that was, I think there was, when you're creating a line on NHL and you got the chemistry meter, we had the chemistry meter up to 95%, and we just knew what we were doing.
Well, it's crazy. It's a lot to unpack there. I want to go back to Minnesota because I played for Todd Richards, and he seemed to reward guys for hard work. And you had your most success under him. Then Mike Yeo comes in, and you immediately regress. And I'm not blaming Mike Yeo, but certain coaches deploy their lines in certain ways. You rely on the top guys too heavily, and you don't trust your players. So Mike Yeo comes in. Did he just immediately start playing the shit out of the higher end guys, and you could slowly see your minutes decrease, and you get a sense of maybe I'm not a part of his plan?
Well, the first year that Mike came in, I think may have been my best offensive year, if I'm not mistaken. Mike came in 1 year before the lockout year, which is when Zach and Ryan came in. So we had a lot of injuries that year. So by necessity, I was playing a lot, and I scored a lot, but I think Mike got caught up in those signings, because those signings for Minnesota were monumental at the time. It was like, these are our two guys. We're finally over the hump. We have one defenseman, one forward. We have enough talent here. This is going to push us over the edge, and so Mike leaned into those two guys very heavily. And so the rest of us who had been kind of grinding our way through what was the first middling sort of period in Minnesota Wild history, because as soon as they came in, aside from the first year or two, they had a pretty good team. I mean, they were very, very good at home. They always seemed to make the playoffs. They never were able to like get over that hump. But that being said, they were always a very good team and a very good product. I feel like they ran into the Vancouver Canucks a bunch of times, who were, a perennial sort of cup favorite at the time, unfortunately for them. And I was there for the first 5 years without that. And so Mike kind of leaned into his top guys, and I mean, like any team in any situation, with a lack of opportunity, any player is gonna struggle. So I wouldn't even want to say I struggled. I wish that my confidence hadn't been as affected as it was, because it affected me in a way, because I hadn't gone through it before. Yeah. But at the same time, then the cap crunch comes following that season. I'm up for a contract, and ultimately, I get moved. And right after the season, it was, my agent called and was evident that I was leaving. So I was just hoping to go somewhere good, which at the moment was not the New York Islanders. It was somewhere out west or somewhere good. But it ended up being the Islanders, and I still live here today. So it turned out pretty good.
It does work out good, and you get paired up with, like, it's a great team you're joining. Like Okposo, Tavares, Brock Nelson, all those guys were there. And you're joining this young team up, not even young, I think they're all in their primes. And then you get this coach, Jack Capuano. Or was it Barry Trotz at the time? It was Jack.
No, it was Jack, yeah.
And if you talk about a guy who embodies the Islanders, just like I'm going to get in trouble here, like, just looks like a greasy mafia guy, how was he to play for? I've never met the dude in my life, but he seems like a guy you'd want to go through the wall for.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's probably one of the best assistant coaches that you're ever going to find. And as a head coach for us, like, I got there and Jack was living in Snowy's basement, our GM's basement, because it was just the whole operation when I got there was the owner was trying to get a new rink built on the site of the Coliseum, and he was trying to revamp the whole area with hotels and casinos. And so until that got passed through Congress, he was kind of in a holding pattern with, like, making sure that the team didn't overspend, and he wanted to make it a profitable organization, or at least a break-even organization. Because at the time, the Coliseum we were getting, on a Tuesday night, we'd get 7,500 people. Mind impressive. You, those 7,500 people were loud, and it was hostile, but it wasn't full. And there was no corporate anything. There was no extra money coming in that every other team seemed to have. So we were in the same conversation as the Arizona Coyotes found themselves in, 4 years later, then going to Mullet. It was the same sort of situation, which led to us going to Brooklyn. But when I first got there, everything was kind of bare bones. The practice rink was terrible. The food was terrible. We were clearly a team that was on the I've said this before, the Cleveland Indians side of the ledger in Major League. It was just like,
and you're coming from Minnesota, where everything's high end. They're spending money, like the sold out barn. It's voted the number one rink in all of sports year after year after year.
You're practicing in the game rink. You have nothing to worry about. The food's there. Like, you're good to go. You got A1 travel. And I went to this Bad News Bears team. Luckily, which I don't know if this is the way to do a rebuild, but I would implore anybody who's trying to rebuild, who has a good setup, it might be best to take your players and put them through a couple of years of shit to get them to come together, because it's so bad. It did. It made us come together as a group and as a team. We literally, Jack's genius was allowing us to be ourselves and just kind of let us kind of take the reins. When he would see momentum, he wouldn't be one of those coaches that would, like, step in and be like, this is going to be because of me. He just, like, would step backwards and he'd be like, "We got something good going, boys. Like, let's go." Like, whatever. He would just like, "You guys know what to do." And so we formed our own sort of fraternity of guys, and that is ultimately what kickstarted our sort of rise out of obscurity into conversation. And then we made the playoffs in I think it was 2015, and we played the Washington Capitals, who were coached by Barry Trotz, star-studded lineup.
Yep.
I think their fourth line was Joel Ward, who is a dear teammate and friend to both of us, and Jason Chimera and Jay Beagle. And it's like you're standing up against this team, and we felt like, hey, finally, like we've got the personnel to go out and upset these guys. And we took them to 7, and it was one of the most physical series, like one of the most fun series to be a part of, and they ended up beating us in 7 games. But at that moment, we kind of were all sitting on the bus after the game, after we lost in 7, and be like, all right, we've got something here. And we just kind of we went from there.
So you get teamed up with Martin, and Casey comes, was it the next year or the year after that? And
Casey was there, Marty was there. The first year that I played there,
Casey was there. Okay.
I didn't play with them. They played with with a kid named Colin McDonald, who had a 5 or 6 year career in and around the NHL. But they were playing with Colin, and I played with Pierre-Marc Bouchard actually, and Peter Regan my first year there mostly. But at the end of the year that year, like Johnny had gotten hurt, and we had like 6 guys from the minors called up. That's when Brock Nelson came up. That's when Anders Lee came up. That's when Ryan Strome came up. So they all went up to the top of the lineup, and I was playing with like the guys who were around. But it was the second year that I was in New York that we got put together, and the rest is history.
It's stupid. It's something I've always wanted, because I bounced around for 10 years where it's like 2 years here, 2 years there, and I play with a million different guys, Cal. It's just, you probably hated playing with a guy like me because you knew, like, I'm getting 3 minutes of ice time. So now when you get these 2 guys who can play, who can skate, and you get a coach who's like, you know what, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. We're going to put you on the penalty kill. We're going to match you up against Sidney Crosby in the playoffs. You can shut him down. Like, that's gotta feel pretty good, and it's such an advantage for a team to have that in their back pocket, because typically a fourth line sucks back in those days. And do you feel like you changed how people look at fourth lines?
I think the 3 of us definitely changed the way that people look at fourth lines, and there's a reason for that. I think people were looking to get away, teams were looking to get away from, and the league was looking to get away from having 2 fighters flanked by an 18-year-old centerman, which was the norm. We'll bring our first rounder or second rounder in. We'll let him get his chops, and then he'll play with 2 big boys. They'll protect him. He'll get his 8 minutes. These guys will play. Maybe we'll chuck him on the power play or the penalty kill here, 5-on-5. When it comes down to it, he's going to play with these 2 big boys. He'll be taken care of. These 2 guys will do their thing, and it is what it is. I think the league was looking for a way out of fighting as a staged sort of like, it wasn't when I came in and you came in, it was like I knew that you were fighting David Kochi, and I knew that Boogie was fighting DJ King.
It was like, get the fight out of the way and then get on with the game.
Get it out of the way. Well, the problem with me playing on your line is just like, well, you get your fight out of the way, and then my centerman gets his fight out of the way, and it's just like, now I'm sitting on the middle of the bench until you come out after a whistle.
Yeah.
Now there's 3 minutes left in the first period, and it's like, where am I really going to play? The saving grace for me was that Jacques Lemaire put me on the penalty kill right away. So I was a penalty killer from day one. I always had a good knack for the systematic side of the game. I understood systems. I understood penalty killing. I understood the defensive side of the game. So for us, I brought that sort of, and this is my mindset going into that line was I have a little bit of everything. I have a wide range of skills. I can kill penalties. I can fit in on a power play bumper if you really need a right-handed shot. I shoot it well. 5-on-5, you could play me against any offensive player, and I will be very responsible, almost too responsible at times. And so Casey, being the same way, could kill penalties and was very responsible. Him and I were like a tandem. And then Marty was the hybrid fighter, where it's just like anybody messes around, Marty's got it. And if it was too much for Marty, we had Eric Bolton and Matt Karkner and whoever else who were playing 30 games a year. So it wasn't like they were in the lineup all the time, but when Bolts would go into the lineup, it would be like Marty was either hurt or he would get moved up or I would get moved up, and then it would be... So for us, we were the line that was like, we're going to go out and play against Malkin or Crosby, and I use Pittsburgh as an example because we played them probably the most, or Ovi or whoever.
See, I want to cut you off. At what point do you get that assignment? Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, we'll just match up against Crosby and Malkin. That doesn't happen. So at what point do you pull Jack aside, or before the game does he pull you three aside and he goes, hey fellas, like, I'm going to give you a chance here? How did that come about?
Yeah, he puts us out there against them. And he would put us out there. A lot of times it was us starting games. So it started with us starting games. So no matter who's starting, you guys are starting. So our MO was like, win the face-off, dump the puck in, get one or two big hits, and then that is such a valuable thing. Like, that gets a team going more than you can imagine. Like, how many times you watch a game and like first line goes out there and they're looking for their touches, and one bad saucer pass leads to like 2 minutes in your own end, and then you're like,
there's a penalty that it messes up the whole mojo.
Like, oh shit, I'm on my heels, or they take a hooking penalty, and then it's like the game gets thrown out of whack right off the hop. Mm-hmm. So our greatest gift was starting a game the same way every time, and even if we lost the draw, another team would dump it in, we would break it out, dump it in, go to get 2 hits, and we would change. Like, our first shift would be 35 seconds long, and then line one comes out on the ice one at a time when the puck's already down there and the other team's feeling like, oh fuck, like, we just, we've been hit a couple times. Guys on the bench are like, oh, we're at the Coliseum. Oh, we're in New York. Oh, we're playing. It's like, that was our greatest gift. And then we could sustain that. Like, we were able to, like, Marty's a really, really smart guy, really smart player. Casey has so much energy. He can bounce around like centermen do from corner to corner and be very tenacious down low. So it was really hard for people to create offense against us. And a lot of times it just ended up that we were holding the puck in the O zone. It didn't always turn into offense, but when those guys can't get it back, like, those offensive players, they just want to circle by the crease. They want to have, pass to the winger, in the middle, easy game. And when they have to stop, they hate it. They hate it. And that was our greatest gift, is making the best players in the world stop and play defense. And that's why we were effective. And Jack trusted us with that right off the hop. And we didn't, in fairness to us, we didn't really ever relinquish that trust. Like, even when we had bad games, or we'd be like -2 or -3, we'd get called in the next day and just like, oh, you guys had an off night. It wasn't like, you guys can't do this. It was just like, no. Like,
which is cool, because most coaches, I don't want to say most coaches, but a lot of coaches would be like, all right, experiment over. Like, so you're done. Back down to the fourth line. Here's 5 minutes. But maybe you built that trust. And it's funny that you playing against the other team's top lines, because I would always play versus the Islanders, because it was you, it was Martin, it was all these guys. I'm like, oh, we got to have someone who can stand up to them. I would never play against you. You would always play against the top guys, so I would end up playing against your top guys. And it was so fun, frustrating at times, but I was just like, I'm out here. I remember I buried Mikhail Grabovski one time, and someone came over and like, why are you playing against Grabovski? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to, but it was just funny because I got to play against all these skill guys, because you were doing your thing, dominating the way you do. But I want to talk about getting threatened, because I've never heard anybody get tripped. You and Steve Ott were probably the two guys who got tripped the most, who I played with. How often did you get asked to fight, day in and day out? Like, was it multiple times a game? Was it not very often, because people would say, oh, he's not going to fight me, whatever?
No, in the minors, that year in Houston, I got asked every shift.
All the time?
Every shift. Every single shift. By which was a blessing. It was a blessing, because it's like, I can't fight 6 times tonight. Like, so, like, but it was like, I don't know. And then, but it became a game. It was like, I was the rabbit in the greyhound race. And I noticed early that by people chasing me around, if I could tolerate it, like, from an anxiety perspective, if I could tolerate it, then a lot of people didn't play well against me, because they spent their night just chasing me around.
It's maddening. It's honestly so frustrating.
It looks maddening. I don't know. I've never run into anybody who's that annoying. I would, and so, it just got to the point where, like, I told myself, like, unless I do something that is worthy of fighting, like if I do something that's borderline dirty, if I do something that crosses the line,
Yeah.
then I answer the bell. If I have somebody that I think I can handle, that I want to fight, that I'm pissed off enough and I fight them, I fight them. I mean, early in my career, I fought 4 or 5 times a year, and it was all because like there was a reason for all of it. But I just didn't want to get stuck in that trap of like this
Smart.
guy will go all the time.
Yeah.
So like look at other guys in my position, like even a guy like Adam Burrish or like these guys who are sort of middleweights their whole career that like made a living off of like being the guy like, oh, he'll go anyone. It's like I'm not gonna go anyone because
Yeah.
I can play. Like I can play the game at this level without any of that bullshit. And honestly, like I knew that as physical as I was, that it was always going to come my way. So I just was like, no, I'm going to have to be really, really smart about who I fight, when I fight them, and how I avoid fighting when, I have guys who are out of my league chasing me around. And luckily, throughout the years where it was really prevalent, like the first 10 years, here in Houston was the worst. Because like in the minors, like nobody gives a shit.
Jungle.
So I was on the receiving end of a lot of sucker punches and scrums and headlocks, and like you have to be able to tolerate that without getting frustrated. And like that was my biggest sort of learning curve, was like, how do I basically get headlocked, punched in a scrum and not turn around and either run this guy from behind or punch him back. Or that was my biggest challenge, honestly. It was like, okay, this guy wants me right now.
Yeah.
How do I just take a punch and just like Matthew Barnaby laugh in his face and be like, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to get me, and I'm going to get you, and like it doesn't matter. And I would always say things like, my defense mechanism would always be like, it was like, well, you never know. Like I'm better at this than you are, and there's going to be a time when you accidentally turn the wrong way, and I'm going to hit you from behind and I'm going to break your neck. And like, you know what I mean? Like that was my, and so I just wanted to say something that was so ridiculous that it would get that guy being like, wait, he would do that. Like he's not above doing that. He would do that to me. Like maybe I should like be aware of him too. Like, so my thing was like, I would always say something so over the top. Like, don't worry. Like, I know where you live. I know, like, I know who you're dating. Like, I know who you're, like, I would say ridiculous shit. And so, and that would make them even more mad and aggravated at the time. But for me, it was just like,
Well, for you, it's great, Cal. But my second year pro, I'm still finding my way in the fight game, and we had no other tough guys on the team. Like, it was me, and that's it. Paul Albers might fight a little bit. I think you were my roommate in Houston.
No, Paul Albers was my roommate, yeah.
I lived with Paul, too. I'm trying to think how that worked out, but maybe I can't remember. But we would go into these scrums, and I'm looking at the other team's 5 tough guys, and you're just riling them up. I'm like, son of a gun. Like, here we go. And I got like 200 penalty minutes that year. I got probably beat up a ton of times, but because of you. You're just,
you should be thanking me. It gave you your entry.
It's funny how it worked out. You got me my entry, but then you also took me out of the NHL because of how good the fourth line was. Isn't that? It comes full circle. It's amazing how that works.
It came full circle.
You got me my opportunity, and then you ruined me at the same time. All right, let's go to this. You're Mr. Hits Leader, and this is something where I got a couple of bones to pick with you. We go into the island. We play this game. You get 1 million hits, and you barely touch anybody. Now, did you grease the stack? I'm sure you've heard this a million times. 4,029 hits in 1,000 games. It's 4 hits a game. That's tough to do. How did you do it? How?
I had at least 8,000. At least. At least.
Are you serious? You think you got shorted?
Trust me, man. You know me, man. I had at least 8,000. I was very consistent. Like I there's games where I would come off, and I have a bone to pick with the New York stats guys. And 2 years before I retired, they started doing hits audits because they became part of the betting, the prop bet scenario. So they needed to have a governing body that goes over what is a hit and what isn't, because you could bet on it. In the 2 years that I got audited, I got added 30 and 50 hits.
Oh no.
So I went from 5 in the league to 1 in the league both years because the auditors gave me more hits than I got credit for. So I will say with that evidence that I honestly feel like, in my opinion, if Kevin Constantine were keeping hits like he did in Houston,
I was just thinking about that.
I would have had 12,000 hits. I probably had about 8,000.
So after every game, you would have this little spreadsheet in the locker room, and guys would go and check their stats. It'd be giveaways, takeaways, scoring chances, high scoring chances, and there would be a section for hits. It would be rub outs, it would be hits, and then impact hits. And then you would tally up all those numbers, and he would rank the players, like who had the best game based on all those stats put together. And I was always in competition for the hits, but yeah, I'm just pulling your chain. You probably had more hits because you're an absolute animal.
That's the reason why I got called up to the NHL the first time. I remember that rookie year I got called up for 2 games. I was up for 3 weeks. I played 2 games, and I had no business. I wasn't ready to go up there yet, but I got called up because apparently Kevin got a call from the brass in the Minnesota Wild saying, who's the most deserving of a call-up? Marian Gaborik went down for 3 weeks. We need somebody to fill in. And it happened to be me because in those meetings and in those tallies, the stats tallies, I was like way ahead on the hits and the like positive chances on the ledger. And he was like, this is the guy. So I get called up. I'll never forget, I was chewing on a Toll House ice cream sandwich in the Houston Aeros practice rink. And Troy Ward came in. He's just like, I got a phone call you're going to want to take. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Doug Rasberry was like, hey, meet us in Florida. I was like, okay, cool. So called my parents, went down, almost missed my flight out of Houston, went down to Florida. Was rookie mistake. I get dropped off like at the road at the Amerant Bank Center, which was like, I don't know, the BB&G whatever center at the time. And the entrance is all the way around the back, so I have a disgusting yellow dress shirt on with a suit on. I'm carrying my bag and my suitcase, and I walked into the dressing room, and my shirt was soaked. I mean, soaked. October in Florida, I was drenched. I walked in, everyone's laughing at me like, you need a new dress shirt? We're going to the outlets later. We're getting you a new shirt. But the only reason is because I was so consistent with my physical play. Like I remember I had one meeting with Kevin Constantine. We played Peoria one year at home, and it was like a melee. It was like a line brawl game, like line brawl off the line brawl. And I had a couple guys like maybe Hans Benson. You remember that name?
Oh yeah, I
Hans
fought him
Benson.
once. Yeah.
Hans Benson was like chasing me around the whole time, and like it was one of those where we were up 5-1, and they were just like, no matter what happens, we're getting you today. And so I had like a weird like off game where I was just like kind of like spaced out, and we were going to Quad Cities the next day, and he pulled me aside in Quad Cities and he goes, I'm fine with you. If this is the one game that you have that's not on brand, like you're allowed. But like do not have 2 of these in a row.
Oh really?
And I remember and he's like, I remember the next time I went out in Quad Cities and I had like 15 hits and I was just like a complete animal. And then he called me aside afterwards, and he was just like, there you go, you're good.
It's cool to have a coach to have that, wherewithal to say this is who you are. And we started at the start of the podcast. Like, you started right away from game one. Like, that's who you were. And I played with guys who tried to be too skilled or skill guys who wouldn't humble themselves to hit. It's cool, and I'm blowing smoke up your behind. I probably shouldn't do that because it's your head's as big, already huge. So, but it's cool to see that that kind of progression from your game where it's just steady as she goes. But back to the hitting, I want to ask one question.
For me, it's just on that point. For me, it was like that's the foundation of the game, and I always wanted to add offense, but I was like, I can't add offense without doing this every day. So the offense has to come as a side plate. Physical play and reliability is the entree, and then offense comes as the side.
But on that team, there was I look at a guy like Danny Ehrman, who was great offensively, wouldn't do the skill stuff in my eyes. Like I mean the physical stuff. He touched at it a little bit. He wouldn't do that. Then I look at Benoit Pouliot, insanely skilled, like top 1% of the whole world. Wouldn't dip his toe in the physical game. And if he would have, he would have been a dangerous player. Like, he was huge. He's 6'3", and just wouldn't do that. So for you to be able to say, you know, I'm going to hit, the offense will come. If it doesn't, I'm still going to play my game. It's cool, because a lot of guys, they hit, they get the publicity, they get the ice time, and they go, I'm going to start scoring, man. Like, I don't want to hit anymore. That's not fun. I'm blowing smoke up you behind. Matt Martin and you, the hit record. Do you guys have conversations before the game saying, I'm going to get more hits than you? How did that? Because I know you did. Don't act like you didn't. The game sheet comes off, and I go, Marty, I got 7. You only got 3. Suck it, bud. Like, just be honest.
Never once.
Oh, you're so full of it.
Never
Really?
Once. Swear to God. I didn't even know the hit record was even a thing. I didn't even know what the
now
number was.
Now it's tattooed on your shoulder.
I just, like I said, that's what I did. That was my thing. Like, I was doing that no matter what. And I will tell every young kid who is looking to like carve out a career, okay? If you show up in Pee Wees and you hit guys as hard as I hit guys in Pee Wees, you should make a mental note. You should make a mental note, like, this is one of the things, like, what is the checklist of things? I always would tell this to guys, and as I got older and I would see young guys going through their formative years in the league, like call it 19 to 23. Okay, make a checklist. What are the 3 things that I can do every single day that are going to make an impact on the game that are non-negotiable? And it sounds like such a weird old school, like, hardo type of thing to do, but like, it doesn't matter what it is. But if you're like a stick checker, if you're a stick on puck guy, if you're a takeaway guy, if you're a shooter, it's like, get myself in a position. There's 3 things everybody can do every single day that are going to keep you in a lineup at whatever level that you can go to. And that was how I approached the game. There's 3 things that I can do. I can be the best penalty killer on the team. I can never pass up a check. I can stay away from taking bad penalties. And I can try and score on my opportunities. And that's how I approached the game. And then everything that happened after that was just a product of those 3 things being in place. And that's why I think I was able to be so consistent. And let's not kid ourselves. Like, everybody loves killing somebody. Like, if you've ever played hockey at any level and you've run somebody over and you hit them to the point where you feel like it's going to hurt and it feels like butter, and that person is laying beneath you on their back, gasping for air, that once you do that one time, you're going to want to do it every day. You know? So I genuinely loved it. I loved the game of, like, lining somebody up, finding the angle, figuring out how much speed I needed, and then lighting them up. I loved it.
I watched it for years. It's a beautiful thing. And people try to do it. It's honestly a skill to be able to have that timing and those angles and the speed. And it's very, very hard to do. And that's why even in football, the best linebackers, it's hard to lay people out. It's harder in hockey. You're going 20-some miles an hour. I wanted to ask, gosh, you got talking about that. I was going to ask you about Jacques Lemaire and how he made the game simple. Then you started talking about hitting. You got me thinking.
Remember when he called you?
Yeah. He didn't know my name the first full year. And
you.
So, yeah.
Over there.
Honest to God, everybody, we would go through the locker room. He didn't know my name for the full year, and he would just say, you over there, you over here, you on the ice. And you were mentioning how the 3 things, the one thing Jacques did with me was I tried to rush the puck once or twice, and he pulled me aside in practice. He's like, what are you good at doing? I'm like, well, I'm kind of a stay-at-home defenseman playing the body. He's like, give the puck to Kim Janssen and then get out of the way. Give it to Nick Schultz and then don't touch it anymore. He's like, take the puck away and then give it to somebody else. And it's the greatest advice I ever got because he simplified the game for me 100%. Like, it was so dummy-proof the way he constructed the game plan, and it just made it easy for the player to play.
What people don't understand is that once you do those things consistently, then you build trust. And then once you build trust, you're able to try the one thing. And if the one thing works out, then you get a little more leash. And even if you make a bad play once in a while, you don't get relegated to the bleachers. You just get like the old, like, hey, just calm down a little. It's not like a full demotion. It's just like okay, remember who you are. That was Barry Trotz's favorite line with me. Because we had a long leash with him, but when I would try, and he would move me up sometimes, and even he would say it to me when I'd make a good play. Like, I'd have a great assist, and I'll never forget, we're in Game 5 or Game 6 of the conference finals in the bubble, and I get moved up. Matt Martin and I are playing with Matt Barzell in the center, line number 1. With a lot of injuries, we're playing. We score in the first, we're up 1-0. I score a goal, nice goal. And there was one play late in the period where like Barzy and I tried like a scissor cycle and we ran into each other and they kind of had to rush the other way. And the intermission speech was like, boys, like good start, like we're doing what we need to do. And he turns around to Dan and he goes, Clutter, know who you fucking are. And I was like, again, like always, like I'm 33 years old. Like I know who I am. But I'm trying to help us win a game here, man. We're in the conference finals. We're trying to win a cup. And he was just like, he just gave me that, know who you are, and then walked out. And everybody in the room just like laughs their ass off at me because like, it's always like I was always the guy who was always like I had the basis, but I was always trying for like maybe a little more, and I would always get nabbed for it, like always.
Got to have a coach who keeps you in check. That's a good thing. You mentioned the conference finals, losing Game 7, 1-0. I know it's not fun. How fun was that, though, in those runs, those 2 years where you guys were just playing so great, but you just run into this really solid Tampa Bay team?
Yeah, just an amazing team we ran into, and I really felt like we had it all, and they had it all, and they might have had 1% more in every category, and I feel like that's what ended up being the difference. And unfortunately, it's no different than watching the Edmonton Oilers struggle against the Florida Panthers. I feel like it's the same thing because honestly, in both years, whoever wins the series with Tampa and I wins the Stanley Cup. So we could easily be talking about back-to-back cups for the Islanders, which would have been an amazing thing considering the timeline of John Tavares leaving in 2017 summer, 2018, to us progressing into 2 straight cups and all that. But you have to tip your cap. I mean, we lost 1-0 in Tampa in Game 7 on a shorthanded goal. That will stick with me forever. But at the end of the day, the thing I take away from that is that those guys on those teams will be so close forever. The same way as if you had won. I think everybody, and I hope that everybody who gets a chance to play at any level gets to experience a team that kind of comes together and really feels like they're going to do it for a long period of time. That's the thing I take away from that the most, is I love those guys that went through that with me, because the feeling of sitting in a dressing room before a big game, and people will always say, like, how nervous is it to go into like a Game 6 or a Game 7 or a Game 1, and you sit there across in the dressing room and you look at anybody in the room and you have this feeling deep inside of you that those people are as committed to what we're trying to do as you are, and then your fear just dissipates. It's like being in a room with like 5 of your closest friends and just knowing that you're destined to accomplish something. It's a feeling that you can't mimic with anything. You could try your ass off, but it's an organic thing that just kind of happens. And I was lucky enough to have 2 full seasons where we really felt like we were going to do it. And going out and playing those games was such a thrill, because you were out there with your brothers in arms. Like, you really felt like you were going to war with them, and they were going to do everything that they could, and then you felt like you had to do everything you could to get it done. And we really played, probably over our heads. If you look at our roster versus Tampa's, like, that was a crazy roster. That was a crazy team we played against both of those years. And our roster, maybe on paper, didn't look the same, but we felt like we had something internally that was different.
I listened to you wax poetically about those teams and, the brothership and the friendship that lasts forever. I tried to call you last month because we had that long playoff run in Houston together. It was a wrong number. I talked to some random guy, and I was embarrassed. And I was just like, I thought we had something, because we had that long playoff run in Houston where I think we played Milwaukee for 5 games. It's a hell of a run.
Yeah.
And then there's nobody there. So that lifelong brotherhood, I think, maybe only exists for the Islanders. It's only for the Islanders, apparently. But I
changed my number basically because I knew that John Scott would be calling me talking about a playoff series. So I was like, I gotta get a new number.
I believe it. That's just the kind of person you are. I was going to bring up other stuff, but I think that speaks for itself. But anyways, all kidding aside, I can sit here and talk to you forever, Klutz. It's great to catch up, but it's been 50 minutes. One question. Who's one guy? You mentioned you knocked down Douglas Murray. Your best hit for me to look up on YouTube. What is it? Tell me. Is it Brad Richards in Dallas? Your first couple years? That was a bomb of a hit. Which one stands out to you?
Brad Richards hit, definitely in consideration. I think the one that is maybe the biggest and maybe the scariest is Brent Seabrook in the playoffs. The last year I was in Minnesota. It may not look as big as the Brad Richards hit, but he was in the corner, and I went buzzing in there, and I kind of clipped him on the shoulder, and I do this thing where I like hit and twist. So I hit him up against the glass, and both of his feet came up, and then I twisted him, and then his feet came up this way, and he like went down like neck and back first, and his foot came up and actually like just clipped me in the chin and like went sky high. And that's probably the biggest looking hit because he's a big dude.
He's a tank. He was like 230, 240.
Yeah, so I like hit him and he went like his feet came right out and his foot flew up and I was like, oh my god. Probably the biggest one, but the Brad Richards one was just like, I think he put his arms up like last minute to try and and I skated through his stick and I still have a scar on my arm because the stick broke right on my elbow. And I broke the stick, and I heard the snap, and then I hit him in the chest, and he kind of just, but yeah, it was. There's a lot of solid ones. I mean, my first couple of years, it was like the rules were different too, so I could
you were just out of control. And then you had Boogie patrolling for you and me, and it was a lot of fun. But I thought of the question I wanted to ask you. People think, oh, you didn't get that many suspensions. Very, very few. You're a very good hitter, very clean player.
Zero suspensions.
Zero. I thought there might have been one.
None.
How many suspensions got taken on you?
Oh.
Do you know?
Probably. I don't know how many suspensions, but I could tell you it's probably 40 games worth.
Crazy. Well, Gillies is the big one, 9.
Gillies at 12.
12 for that.
James Wisniewski got 10 on me in an exhibition game.
By the way.
I think Sergei Gonchar got 2 on me. I think Taylor Hall got 7. Yeah, so it's probably 35, 40.
Crazy. Like, that's got to be a badge of honor. I think that's neat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm plus 40 when it comes to plus or minus suspended games. Yeah.
And the best thing about Cal is when he loses his helmet, he doesn't like putting it back on.
Well, you can't anymore, but I used to love running around without it on.
It was so maddening because I have a receding hairline and a bald spot, and anytime I would get in a fight, I'd fix my hair. I'm like, okay, cover it up, try to look good. TV timeouts, the bucket's off, Cal's doing a hot lap around the D zone. Anytime he's like, look, clean my visor, he's just up and down the ice. I'm like, did you know that you, like, beautiful. Like, shut, just put your hat on.
It's still here, boys.
It's so here. Brown. Do you dye it?
I don't dye it, but I'm getting a little gray on the sides. That's why I kind of clean it up on the sides. You can see my beard getting a little gray. But
do you see my face right now? It's all gray.
Well, you have 8 kids, so I only have 4. It's just like a 4 kids turns you into this, and 8 kids turns you into that.
And it's just gray everywhere, top to bottom. It's the.
But you gotta be almost 50 at this point, no?
Okay, thanks for jumping on the show, Cal. No, 42 actually. Thank you very much. I'm not.
Oh my God. I thought you were 40 when we were playing together. Coffee and crosswords with John Scott.
We started talking, and Cal's like, you just do a crossword? I legit just finished a USA Today crossword on my computer. And I messaged you, I'm like, you want to jump on now? I'm done with my crossword. Like, come on, let's go. I haven't changed much, Cal. But anyways, neither of you. I'm going to let you go. It's almost an hour. This is my longest interview ever, just because you're such a good dude. I appreciate it. Check him out on the MSG Network, doing games for the Islanders. Great dude, hits leader. I appreciate you jumping on, my friend. Cal Clutterbuck, everybody.
Thanks, buddy. It's great to see you, man.
Likewise, Cal. That was fun, buddy.
Catch you back home in Thorold or Welland.
Yeah, I'll see you at the mansion. Not a chance.
See you there.
All right, cheers, everybody.
John Scott.